So the ATF is moving forward with their new pistol brace rule, but there's already a case teed up to stop them in their tracks. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think the ATF needs to be abolished, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also want to give a shout out to one of the main supporters of this channel, which is USCCA. Through your membership, you get training, education, and self-defense and liability protection. So if you carry a firearm, I highly recommend you take a look into USCCA, and I'll put a link to them down in the detail section. How's it going, everyone? My name is Anthony Miranda. I am a licensed and practicing attorney in the state of California with an emphasis on Second Amendment rights. I've been part of Second Amendment litigation both at a state level and at a national level, while serving as a staff attorney with the Firearms Policy Coalition legal team. My goal with these videos is not to provide any legal advice, but instead to give you greater insight into the inner workings of Second Amendment litigation and what is currently going on in the battle for our rights to keep and bear arms. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video we're going to be discussing what is currently going on with the ATF's new rule on pistol braces, which attempts to treat any firearm with a brace attached as an actual SBR. Currently, the ATF still plans to drop this new rule on pistol braces before the end of this year, but there's already a case that is teed up to stop the ATF in their tracks. The case we're going to be talking about in this video is the Second Amendment Foundation versus ATF, and it aims to force the ATF to adhere to the correct administrative processes when they're trying to create new rules like what they're trying to do with the pistol brace rule. It also aims to stop the ATF's Second Amendment violations in regard to their regulation of pistol braces. Now, if you don't recall, the ATF announced two proposed rules recently. One targeted the 80%ers and 80% kits, and the other targeted pistol braces and any firearm that had a pistol brace attached. The proposed rule on braces, which is the question of this video, seeks to create a new rule where any firearm with a brace attached to it would be likely considered to be an SBR and then subject to NFA requirements. This means that the ATF wants to make all firearms with a brace attached subject to registration and taxation under the NFA, and the ATF wants to treat those to actually be SBRs. The ATF's proposed rule created a weird report card system where you would have to add up points onto your card based on what features that your firearm has attached to it, and also if it had a pistol brace attached to it as well. This system essentially led to any firearm with a brace attached actually be considered to be an SBR because it would have enough points. Last year, the Department of Justice also released a statement on their intent with this whole new pistol brace rule. They stated that this rule is intended to clarify when a rifle is intended to be fired from the shoulder and to set forth factors that ATF considers when evaluating firearms with an attached purported stabilizing brace to determine whether these are rifles under the GCA or NFA, and therefore whether they are firearms subject to the NFA. The proposed rule will amend the definition of the term rifle in the Code of Federal Regulations by adding a sentence to the end of each of those definitions. The new sentence would clarify that the term rifle includes any weapon with a rifled barrel and is equipped with an attached stabilizing brace that has objective design features and characteristics that indicate that the firearm is designed to be fired from the shoulder, as indicated by the ATF's worksheet 4999. So in the prior DOJ statement on the intent of the new pistol brace rule, they state that they are creating new factors to determine when a firearm has objective features that are attached, which indicate that that firearm with a brace is actually intended to be fired from the shoulder and therefore is a rifle instead of a pistol. In doing this, the ATF is coming up with a worksheet that lists all these factors and creates a point system. Under this worksheet, if a firearm has enough features and meets a certain point threshold, then the ATF deems that to be an SBR, that firearm is actually an SBR, and therefore is subject to NFA restrictions. And under the worksheet that we saw included in the proposed rule, almost any firearm with a brace attached to it would actually gain enough points to be considered to be an SBR. Now, after the proposed rule was released, we all commented on the proposed rule, and since then we've been waiting to see what the ATF would do and when they would release that final rule on pistol braces. A case was already going in the Northern District of Texas challenging the ATF's various rules regulating firearms with pistol braces attached to them, and that is the Second Amendment Foundation case that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. One of the main thrusts of that case was that the ATF's actions harms thousands of law-abiding Americans and citizens nationwide, including those people with disabilities and also the firearms industry, which is actually trying to help those people. And under the ATF's actions, those people and companies wrongfully face the threat of criminal prosecution under this ATF's new unlawful rulemaking. Now, in this lawsuit, the ATF stated that on June 10th, 2021, defendants published in the Federal Register a proposed rule on factoring criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. The proposed rule provided a 90-day public comment period during which the agency received 211,564 comments. The agency has since processed all those comments and is presently in the process of drafting the final rule, which includes preparing responses to commenters and engaging in other deliberative activities. The agency currently expects to publish a final rule in December of 2022. Then after making that claim, the ATF and the plaintiffs decided that in this case, they wanted to temporarily stay this case while the ATF finalizes that final rule on pistol braces. Ultimately, the court in this case agreed with the parties and issued the following order. The court stated, "The court has received the parties' joint status report. The court agrees with the parties that this matter should remain stayed while defendants finalize the proposed rule on factoring criteria with firearms with attached stabilizing braces, which is currently expected in December of 2022. Accordingly, the parties are hereby ordered to file a joint status report on or before December 28, 2022, indicating whether the matter should remain stayed. If the parties propose at that time that the stay should be lifted, the joint status report shall contain a proposed schedule for continuing the litigation." Now, this is something really important strategically which is going on. This case has already been filed and was proceeding forward against the ATF. Then the ATF said that they plan to drop that new rule, that new final rule on pistol braces sometime this December. This case now will be held until the ATF finalizes that rule and therefore publishes it. And at that point, this case will be reactivated essentially, and the ATF will be sued immediately for their new rule on pistol braces. There was also some discussion from the ATF that they may open an amnesty period for pistol braces, and what that will actually take, we don't know yet. We don't know what form that's going to take right now, so I'm not going to speculate on that, but the ATF has said that they will open up some sort of amnesty for firearms with pistol braces, but really, again, what that looks like, we don't know. Now, with this case, I also suspect some other things will change, including the Second Amendment arguments that are included in this case. This case was originally filed before the Supreme Court issued their decision in the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin decision. Because of that, there isn't much discussion about the ATF's obligations to justify this regulation of pistol braces using text, history, and tradition dating back to 1791. As you may recall, Justice Thomas in that opinion stated, "To justify its regulation, the government may not simply posit that the regulation promotes an important interest. Rather, the government must demonstrate that the regulation is consistent with this nation's historical tradition of firearms regulation. Only if a firearms regulation is consistent with this nation's historical tradition may a court conclude that the individual's conduct falls outside the Second Amendment's unqualified command." Under this ruling, the ATF's public interest that they claim for the new pistol brace rule is now completely invalid. They built this whole pistol brace rule on a public interest argument. The ATF said they needed this new pistol brace rule to protect the public from these dangerous firearms with pistol braces attached to them, and it was in the public's interest for them to regulate these items. That whole public interest argument is now completely invalid. Instead, the ATF must prove that their regulation adheres to the history and tradition of this nation. That is where the ATF's pistol brace ban currently stands. They plan to release it in December, but there's already a case that has been filed and is teed up to hold the ATF accountable and to sue them once they actually publish that final rule. In my opinion, I think the pistol brace fight was going to be one of the major Second Amendment battles that we have and will face going into next year. And really, it's going to be a regulation of pistol braces and will implicate and impact millions of gun owners, because almost every single gun owner, even I know, that I'm sure a lot of you guys know, have an AR or an AK pistol that has a brace attached. And this final rule on pistol braces seeks to make all those people felons if they don't register those firearms as SBRs with the ATF. So this is something we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. Again, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation is built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.